Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tanalita Gita Varitamadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu ki Romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingara Tanama Niramadyanado Shri Vigrahara Nana Shingara Tanma Niramadyanado Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Trupte Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Kridvaiva Trupte Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shiradikama Bhavayara Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Bhavayara Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Pratikshana sa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Pratikshana Vande Guru Shri Charanara Nekunja Yuno Ratikeri Siddhai Jajali Viri Jukti Apekshaniya Nekunja Yuno Ratikeri Siddhai Jajali Viri Jukti Tatratitakcha Atibalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Tatratitakcha Atibalabhasya Sakchadharitena Shamasta Shastri Ruktastatthava Gataiva Sadhavi Shastri Ruktastatthava Kintu Prabhaja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charana Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasadam Yasya Prasadam Dayam Subham Tasya Yasa Trisanjam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Dayam Subham Tasya Yasa Trisanjam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Charanaravrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Patata Desha Tarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Patata Desha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Yaraya Nama Krishna, Jadavaya Nama Hare, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha, Jadavaya Madhavaya, Hare Gopal Govindaram, Shri Madhusudam, Giridhari Gopinath, Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Sita, Hare Guru Vaishnava, Bhagavad Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan, Bhatta Raghuna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Shri Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jagannath, Baladeva, Subhadrama, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman, Sitaram, Netai Gaura Haribo, 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 Netai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur, Premanande Hari Haribo. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Param Saprabhajagacharya Suttara Saraswati Srimad ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Siramani Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhaktidat Patita Pavana, His Divine Grace Abhay Charavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai, Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhara Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vishnu Vrindi Ki Jai, Prem Si Koho Si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Jai Param Dayal Si Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Jai Premanama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Si Satchinanda Nishman Gauranga Si Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mavrana Avatar Ki Jai, Golokera Pramadhan Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai, Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Brihatmitanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Radha Kund Syama Kunda Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Brajabhum Vrindavan Mathurudham Ki Jai, Deloship Shri Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Ekachakradham Ki Jai, Parama Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Shri Purushottama Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu, Srimati Subhadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai, Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kani Shingare Bhagavan Ki Jai, Bhakta Shristha Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Nita Jagangamai Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulasi Maharani Brinde Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Maturadharani Ki Jai, Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinde Ki Jai, Nitai Gaurari Pramanande. All glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Gauri.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha.
Jato jato jami tato Narsimha.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye.
Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Amdalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Baba Kara Kamala Bare Adbhuta Seva Adita Hiranyakasipu Kanabhina Visavadita Narariroma Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha
केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Jaya Kesavadita Narahariropa Jai Jagadisha Jai Jagadisha
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
Jaya
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा
Jaya
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
नरसिम्हा भगवान की जय
Jai Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevre Satabhaktaye Namo Namaha Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevre Shatabataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devyai Priyayai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabataye Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki Jai. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha. Did you want you to sing?
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Radha Krishna Seva Pabo E Abhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Vilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pabo He Abhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Vilasi.
Je tumhara sharanalo tara vancha purna ho. Je tumhara sharanalo
Taravancha
kripa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi.
Tumi kripa kori karatare Vrindavanavasi.
Moraye abhilash Vilas kunje diyo vas. Moraye abhilash Vilas kunje diyo vas. Nayane heri sada Jugala ruparashi.
Avinayane
Haribosada Jugala ruparasi. Eni vedanadaro Saki anugata koro. Eni दासी सेवायाधिकार
करो
दिए करो निज दासी दीना कृष्ण दासी को ये न मोरा हो
दीन कृष्ण दास को ये न मोरा
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी यानि कानि चा पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि चा तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी वृंदा देवी वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल
नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि श्री वृंदाई तुलसी दिव्याई प्रिययै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादि देवी शतवत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदायै तुलसी दिव्याई प्रिययै केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादि देवी Shattabataye Namo Namaha. Priyaye Kesavasata. Vrindaye Tulasidevaye Priyaye Kesavasatya Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Shattabataye Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of carry damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulsi Vrindi Maharani Ki. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhyastakam Ki. Chaito Dadvana Mahajanam Bhavamada Vagnivapanam Shri Akari Chandrika Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Shradanam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Shmane Nakala Mamapi Durdhaivam Nijrisham Yajanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Amanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagarisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavata Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvayi Ainandatam Jakinkaram Paritama Vishame Bhavambudau Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galorashru Dharaya Badanam Gadugadarudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Bapukada Tavanam Agrane Bhavishyati Juga Itam Nimishena Chakyusha Prarusya Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Asli Shava Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshnar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatha Thava Vidadhatulam Pato Mat Pranatastu Saivana Paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhyastakam Ki. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gauru Tvishaya Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Devam Gaurvani Pracharini Nivrishesha Shunyavadi Pachatyare Shatarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart over the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of condition of life for repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large. because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested your transcendental energy. There is no even a heart in Christ's book for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach by holy names.
But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. I should chant the holy name of the Lord and how to stay in mind. What should be more tone than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the Lord. Oh, my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Santana Maharaj, Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I fall into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my merciful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Krishna Krishna Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Mati Visesa Swami Paskati.
There have been offenses in my chanting the holy name of the Lord and shooting his holy name. They are as follows. Two pronouncing the glory and the day in the night of the holy name of the Lord. To consider names of the Lord and not share from harm. For they will do it on the man and not the fish. Three. To disobey the orders of the Christian as. Four. To blaspheme the
Very good, Charlie. 2, 9, 3. Commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Chanting of Hare Krishna. One of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be attentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava is carefully guarded against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Visesha Sunyavani Praskati Lisna. Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Ganyati Mirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manustam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Visakha Nivitam Sah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamani Shri Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shivarsuvanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishwaraya Sakshad Vairagyamurtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Baba Bhumistvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Gyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Bangur Mama Manda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasanasito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Mihi Sevyamanu Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsiva Tatatastita Karsan Venus Vaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestana Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vagnina Nanadi Radhe Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Riksha Laksha Vrite Susurabira Vipali Antam Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwananda Maravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Gotikamaniya Visesha Sobam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandrika Lasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Bhukram Pranayakela Kalavilasam Shamam Jibanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vikrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupa Madhyam Purana Purusham Yovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yova Yoradapi Manaso Munipungamandam So Pyastiyat Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve Govinda Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekop Yasora Chayatam Jaganant Kotim Yas Chaktirasta Jagananda Chaya Yadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyoman Jastataivar Sampraptya Rupa Mahima Sani Anabusa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bistabirya Evani Chirupa Tayakalabi Goloka Evani Vasata Kilakma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidaresu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Koti Swasyesu Vasudadi Vibhuti binam tad brahma niskalam anantam asesha bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Triagunya Tad Visai Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Vulambi Padasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Prani Nam Pratifralam Smaratam Upetya Lilai Tena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chitasya Devi Mahesa Dhamma Sute 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 Te Prabhavani Chaya Vitas Chayena Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sristista Te Pralaya Sadhan Saktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chichesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Siram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Naitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambutam Ativitam Samapaitik Parya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departed Evhita Santaram Abhyupetya Dipaya Devirita Hitu Samanu Dharma Yastadra Geva Hitya Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Paransma Murtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Valambya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jaganandanata Vishnur Mahansahi Yasya Kalavisesha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Vasman Yatasma Sakalesa Najesha Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitat Radatra Brahma Ya Esa Jagadanda Vidanu Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dwande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Maruti Sascha Kalas Tatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmat Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savitas Kalagrahana Raja Samasta Suramurtira Sesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Srutayastapamsi Brahma Dikita Patakavati Yasta Jiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandanda Rupa Falabhaja Janamatanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiyakanta Kanta Parama Purisha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumishtintamani Ganama Yitoyam Amritam Kataganam Nadam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apitata Swatyam Apicha Sayatra Shirabdi Mihi Srabati Shirabdi Vyascha Sumahan Nimesa Dakyova Rajati Nahiyatra Pisamaya Bhaje Swita Dvipam Tamaham Ihugolokam Itiam Vedantas Te Santakshati Vira Charakati Paye Shri Guru Vastika prayers, Kijay. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana, I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most consubstantial servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraja Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, verse number 19. Iti avedita hardaya mayam sa bhagavan para adide sarvavindaksha atmana paramam stitam. Iti avedita, thus being prayed to by me, hardaya, from the core of my heart, mayam, unto me, sa, he, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, para, supreme, adi desha, instructed, aravinda aksha, the lotus side, atmana, of himself, paramam, transcendental, stitim, situation. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When I thus expressed my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about His transcendental situation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The words paramam stitam are significant in this verse. The Lord's transcendental situation was not even spoken of to Brahma when the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verses 33 to 36 were explained. This transcendental situation comprises his dealings with devotees engaged in transcendental loving service, as exhibited at Dwarka and Vrindavana. When the Lord explained his specific transcendental situation, it was meant for Uddhava only, and therefore Uddhava particularly said, Mayam, unto me, although the great sage Maitreya was also sitting there. Such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with speculative knowledge or fruitive activities. The Lord's activities in confidential love are very rarely disclosed to the general devotees, who are attracted by devotion mixed with knowledge and mysticism. Such activities are the inconceivable pastimes of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When I thus expressed my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation. Gaura Premanandi, Haribol, Haribol. So this, again, now is speaking about the most confidential activities of the Lord. And this is mentioned also in a little more obtuse way in the 9th chapter, which is called The Most Confidential Knowledge. And that chapter begins with the verse, Idam te guyatamam pravakshami anasuyve jnanam vijnana sahitam yajgatva muksyasi subat. Very nice verse. This is the first verse of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, as a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he or she becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? Let's see where that is. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shinvata Swakrita Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridyantaksto Hibadrani Vidunati Srahit Satam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars. Okay, so, this is an alternate translation to that verse. And it's giving a much deeper understanding of what that verse means. So, previously, we've recited that verse many, many times, and basically it says, to hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Okay. Now, the alternate translation that we're hearing in the ninth chapter, first verse is, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. So we can see that there's something confidential, and even in this verse today, although both Maitreya and Uddhava are with Krishna personally in a private place, because Maitreya is not actually a pure devotee. He's an exalted devotee, but he still has some mixed purposes in pursuing Krishna consciousness, whereas Uddhava has no mixed purposes. He's completely dedicated to Krishna with love and devotion. So, therefore, Krishna can explain things to Uddhava, and even though Maitreya is there, and even though he may be listening, he cannot understand them thoroughly, as Uddhava can. And this is extremely important because everything depends on our desires. If we have mixed desires, what does that mean, mixed desires? We have a desire to be Krishna conscious, but we also have some attachment still to some kind of personal agenda. So those personal agendas are karma, jnana, and yoga. So karma means one is still performing spiritual activities, but to get some material benefits, such as elevation to the higher planets, where the enjoyment of sense gratification is much more intense than on these middle planets like the Earth. Or jnana, where one is engaged in devotional activities, but becomes enamored by acquiring knowledge, the Vedic knowledge, and becomes a little proud because of it, and ultimately desires to merge into the Brahman effulgence rather than go back to Vaikuntha or Goloka and be in a very intense engagement and loving devotion for the Lord. In Vaikuntha, one achieves Vaikuntha by even a slight awakening of love of God. But one achieves full the full gamut or the full spectrum of love of God in Goloka. So there's a difference between Vaikuntha and Goloka also, but both of them are the spiritual world. The Brahma Jyoti is the spiritual effulgence coming from the body of Krishna, and that spiritual effulgence is made up of infinite number of spiritual sparks or jivas who desire to merge into the effulgence of the Lord rather than to go to Vaikuntha or Goloka in a what you would call a compact of love. The love is just incipient or beginning in Vaikuntha, but it's fully matured in Goloka. So that fully matured loving relationship is a mystery that nobody except a genuine, pure, completely pure devotee can understand. Even though one may hear about it, but it still remains what you would call something incomprehensible. Why? Because Krishna has mutually contradictory qualities. So anyone who is like a jnani would immediately reject whatever they would hear about Krishna and his mutually contradictory qualities. That means he's far away, but at the same time he's very near. He has no material legs, but yet he can run faster than anyone. And all that points to the fact that his body is made up of only spiritual energies called Sat Chit Ananda. And our body is made up of blood, pus, urine, and stool, and ligaments, and bones, and tendons, and arteries, and capillaries, and veins, and capillaries, and plasma, and earwax, and tears, and this and that. So our body is not a spiritual body. But we do have a spiritual body, but it's covered by this material body, and our problem is that we identify with the material body, which is the basis of false ego. So we're in this duality, material body covering our spiritual body, and we've wrongly identified with the material body, so every decision we make in life will be wrong that way. Because we're starting with a false premise that I am this body. But it's almost impossible for people to identify with their eternal soul that's being covered by the body. Why? Because of mundane education, because of mundane topics that are being discussed all the time, and mundane goals in life, like trying to get rich and increasing one's sense gratification, and becoming proud because of possession of all kinds of gadgets and cars and houses and boats and 401ks and this thing and that thing. So one becomes so entangled in the material conception of life that even if they hear Krishna's confidential knowledge, they can't understand anything. They think it's all mythology or something made up or something that is not their interest in life. Their interest in life is to make more money and spend it and for sense gratification. So why would they be interested in Krishna's transcendental loving relationship with his devotees? There's no interest at all. So this is explained in extremely profound way in the second canto, 9th chapter, 31st verse. Now we went over this before, but it's so important we'll go over it again, because our disease is we hear something and later on we forget it, right? Or we read something and later on we forget. So what was being said here? It was said in the previous verse yesterday that my Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge, in other words, you're saying, please explain that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji. So, Brahma is the secondary creator in the material world. He receives all that knowledge from Krishna, and so he was the first living entity in the present material universe, and he was personally instructed by Krishna himself. Okay, so today's verse says, "When I thus express my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation." So obviously he spoke about this previously to Brahma, and now he's explaining it to Uddhava. Now, the purport to Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 31 says, "Lord Brahma is the topmost devotee of the Lord within the universe, and therefore the Personality of Godhead, Krishna, replied to his four principal inquiries in four important statements, which are known as the original Bhagavatam in 4 verses." Now we're going to go over those 4 verses in the next couple classes, but this is a preliminary introduction to it, right? These are called the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 nutshell verses. When it says nutshell verses, it means the whole book is based on these 4 or summarized in these 4 verses. So it says inquiries in the 4 important statements, which are known as the original Bhagavatam in 4 verses. These were Brahma's questions. What are the forms of the Lord, both in matter and in transcendence? How are the different energies of the Lord working? How does the Lord play with his different energies? How may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him? So these are 4 questions that Brahma is asking to the Lord, and then Krishna is going to answer them. And these are type of questions we should ask also to our spiritual preceptors or spiritual gurus, Siksha and Diksha gurus. Especially, how can I be instructed to discharge the duties entrusted to me, right? Or, as Prabhupada says, the only question a disciple should have is, how can I serve you, dear Gurudev, right? So, it says, the prelude to the answers is this verse under discussion. Okay, what verse is that? It says, the Personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential, right? So that's the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita says, most confidential knowledge, right? So he's saying the same thing here in the 2nd canto, 9th chapter, verse 31. When I say he, Krishna is saying the same thing. And it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. In other words, if one doesn't engage in devotional service, they'll never have even a chance of understanding the most confidential knowledge of Krishna. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So, by me, meaning Krishna is explaining it. Okay, so the Lord says that Brahma may take the answers as he explains them. This means that transcendental knowledge of the Absolute Supreme Being can be known if it is made known by the Lord himself. By the mental speculation of the greatest mundane thinkers, the absolute truth cannot be understood. So you can listen to people, like there's Schopenhauer, and there's Nietzsche, and there's Sartre, and there's Aristotle, and there's Socrates, and there's Plato, and there's this one and that one. They're all considered to be great speculators, and but they don't understand this confidential knowledge of Krishna. Now we're going to see what that confidential knowledge actually is. This means that transcendental knowledge of the Absolute Supreme Being can be known if it is made known by the Lord himself. By the mental speculation of the greatest mundane thinkers, the absolute truth cannot be understood. The mental speculators can reach up to the standard of impersonal Brahman realization, But factually, complete knowledge of the transcendence is beyond the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Thus, it is called the supreme confidential wisdom. Out of many liberated souls, someone may be qualified to know the personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said by the Lord himself that out of many hundreds of thousands of people, one may try for perfection in human life. And out of many liberated souls, one may know him, meaning Krishna, as he is. Therefore, the knowledge of the personality of Godhead may be attained by devotional service only. Rahasyam means devotional service. Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita because he found Arjuna to be a devotee and friend. Without such qualification, one cannot enter into the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. So that verse where Krishna says, Arjuna, I'm going to explain this to you because you are my bhakta and my sakha. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hyatad uttamam. So that's in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Let's see what verse it is. Third one. Which one?
Third verse.
Yeah. Yeah, saevayam maya te dya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam hitad uttamam. This very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme Personality Godhead is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Now if we go to the 9th chapter, verse number 1, it adds another dimension to the qualification. Idam tu te guyatamam pravakshyami anasuviyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgatva moksyasi subhat. So Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of God has said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me. So now here's a third qualification. One must be bhakta, a devotee of the Lord, engaged in full-time devotional service. One must be sakha, a friend of the Lord, not having any enviousness or jealousy or any type of negativity toward the Lord, being totally dedicated to the Lord with pure heart and pure intentions to follow the instructions of the Lord. And now it's saying that one should not be envious. Anasuyave means non-envious. It's a beautiful word in Sanskrit. Okay, so therefore, coming back to 2.9.31, it says, he found Arjuna to be a devotee and friend. Without such qualifications, one cannot enter into the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one cannot understand the personality of Godhead unless one becomes a devotee and discharges devotional service. Yeah, so the real goal of studying the Vedas, especially Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, is to be convinced that I should be engaged full-time in devotional service. And we discussed what that means. Let's say you're married, you have children, you have so many responsibilities, you have to put food on the table, you have to have some savings in case of an emergency, this thing, that thing. That's fine, but you should engage in the art of work, how to dovetail. Now, we discussed that yesterday. How to dovetail all your activities into Krishna consciousness. And to do that, you need the help of bona fide spiritual masters, shiksha, instructing, and diksha, initiating gurus. And gurus are 360 degrees around you if you learn how to see. There are Vartma Pradakshika Guru, Shiksha Guru, and Diksha Guru. And gurus can be male, they can be female, they can be children sometimes, they can be adults, they can be seniors. So, and there are two types of gurus. One guru teaches you what not to do, and one guru teaches you what to do. So when you see someone in a nightclub smoking, drinking, engaging in illicit trysts, and also intoxicating, engaging in the 4 self-destructive activities, which is intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, and meat eating, right? That's what goes on in the nightclubs and the restaurants and places like that. So they're your gurus also. They're teaching you what not to do. And then there are gurus that teach you what to do. Chant Hare Krishna. Regularly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Eat only prasadam, food that's been offered first to Krishna with love and devotion. And always come to the temple and associate with devotees as much as possible and engage in devotional service. So 4 things we should never do: meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication. 4 things we should always do: chant Hare Krishna, hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day, and offer our food and to Krishna and receive it back as prasadam, and come to the temple regularly and engage in devotional service in the association of devotees. Okay, so here it says, without such qualifications, one cannot enter into the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one cannot understand the personality of Godhead unless one becomes a devotee and discharges devotional service. This mystery is love of Godhead. Wow. Just like George Harrison said, all you need is love. But it's not an easy thing, because love today, just like when I was in France in the beginning, back in 1970s, and we were just opening our first little temple, which was a little house. And so I wanted to, and we were going out on Sankirtan every day, and I wanted to make a little pamphlet, inviting people to our love feast. So that's what we used to call it, the love feast, right? So I didn't know French very well, but I looked up the words in the dictionary. So I said, s'il vous plaît, viens à la fête d'amour, which means please come to our love feast, right? And then I started getting phone calls. These ladies were calling up, they're saying, mais qu'est-ce que je dois s'habiller pour votre fête d'amour? What should I wear for your love feast? And one lady said, should I come in a bikini? I said, what? She said, should I come in a bikini? So I didn't understand why she said that, right? So later on I asked one devotee who speaks French, I said, this lady called me up and she said, what should I wear to your love feast? Should I come in a bikini? He said, look, you don't really know how to speak French. I said, well, I looked it up in the dictionary. He says, yeah, that's a mistake. And if you say fête d'amour, it means it actually implies an orgy. I said, really? So I didn't know that. So you see, just looking up words in a dictionary is not the best way to translate sometimes. So you have to know, the colloquialism of every language and every country. So anyway, the problem with English is there's only one word, love. In Sanskrit, there are many words for all different kinds of love. So Sanskrit is a much more perfect language than English. So there are many, many different kinds of love. And the kind of love that's being mentioned here is being described as a mystery. The mystery of love of Godhead. So what is the mystery? Therein lies the main qualification for knowing the mystery of the personality of Godhead, and to attain the stage of transcendental love of Godhead, regulative principles of devotional service must be followed. The regulative principles are called Vidhi Bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, and they can be practiced by a neophyte with his present senses. Now, why should we have regulative principles? That means things that control us and limit us, right? They're limiting. So, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. All those are limits, right? So why should we be limited when the goal is to love God? Well, because unless we get rid of our bad habits, and these are all really bad habits, they're self-destructive, just like we're going to have our second panel here soon. Did you get all the things I sent you?
Yeah, I got that. I wanted to.
Yeah.
Last
So
night I sent.
I know, I saw it. But then in the meantime, some little lamp came up in my head, and I thought we should add at least 2 extra things, right? Maybe not the third one, but 2 extra things. And we'll talk about that later. So here, there's a mystery. And what is that mystery? You can only understand God with pure love and devotion, right? So most people would say, why should I do that? You know, well, because Krishna is the source and the object of pure love and devotion. So unless we engage in pure love, means no personal desire. Just like the gopis, they consider that their body belongs to Krishna. And of course they have spiritual bodies, but when there are such close, intimate consorts of the Lord appearing in the material world, they may have a material body, but they consider that it belongs to the Lord. In other words, everything about their body, their eyelashes, their lips, their nose, their mouth, their arms, everything, and anything that they clothe themselves with, and anything that they say, anything that they think, it's all based on pleasing Krishna. They don't have a personal desire. See, so when there's love in the material world, it's basically, most of the time, it's based on you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. You don't scratch my back, I'm not going to scratch your back. See? But with the gopis, it's one way only. That they're dedicated completely to pleasing Krishna without any desire for remuneration even. So that's the last verse of the Shiksastikam Aslishyava Padartam Vinastamam Adarsanam Marmahato Karotava, where basically Lord Chaitanya is saying, look, Krishna, you can do anything you want. You can hug me so hard that you crush my bones, or you could ignore me completely, but you are my worshipable Lord unconditionally. So this unconditional love is the symptom of the gopis. And Lord Chaitanya is assuming the qualities of Srimati Radharani so that he can understand why she is experiencing more ecstasy than he is, because she has unconditional love for Krishna. But he had to take her position to understand why she was more ecstatic than himself. So unconditional love is something that most people would not accept. Just like unconditional service for Microsoft would not be acceptable by anyone, right? Unconditional service means you're working for nothing, right? Now, who would work for nothing? You think anyone would work for Microsoft if they said, well, you can work for us, but we're not going to pay you a salary? Yeah, nobody. Right? So unconditional love is the same thing, that you're not expecting anything in return for all your service. You're only concerned about pleasing Krishna. Well, this is a special thing, but it's the sign of real love. In fact, it says, if there's a relationship between a man and woman, and let's say the man does something that is unacceptable, like let's say infidelity or whatever, but the wife doesn't leave him, that means there's real love. Okay? Or it could be the vice versa. Actually, I know someone like that. Who had a very nice wife, and he's a very decent person. And his wife had a illicit relationship with his best friend, and it went on for years before he found out. And when he found out, he didn't reject his wife. He immediately took her far away so that other person couldn't see her anymore, and so she couldn't see him, and he forgave her. And that relationship went on for years, and the guy was his best friend, right? So we see that's what this verse, which is in the fifth chapter of Adi Lila, is saying, that when there's a valid reason to leave your partner, but the person doesn't leave, that means there's real love there. So there can be other reasons why. Like, let's say I told the story of this one devotee who developed multiple sclerosis and became basically a vegetable, although he was a very handsome and strong man, but his wife never left him, even though he was devastated and just deteriorated day after day for years. She always remained loyal to him. And at the end, she had to bathe him, she had to take him to the bathroom or clean him and feed him, and then she also had to work to have enough money to do all those things, but she never left. So those are signs of real love. So it says here, and such hearing and such hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord. Okay, it says, the regulative principles are called vidhi bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, and they can be practiced by a neophyte with his present senses. Such regulative principles are mainly based on hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord. And such hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord can be made possible in the association of devotees only. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended 5 main principles for attaining perfection in the devotional service of the Lord. The first is association with devotees, because that'll give you a chance to hear the subjects of Krishna, because real devotees will only talk about these subjects of Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Second is chanting the glories of the Lord. In other words, chanting Hare Krishna. If you chant alone and never associate with devotees, eventually you'll stop chanting. If you chant in the association of devotees, or even if you just associate with devotees, you will also chant, right? And then the third is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure devotee. Fourth, residing in a holy place connected with the Lord. And fifth, worshiping the deity of the Lord with devotion. So those are the 5 things that we do in this temple and in all the Krishna temples in the world. And this is recommended. Such rules and regulations are parts of devotional service. So, as requested by Lord Brahma, the personality of Godhead, we'll explain all about the 4 questions put forward by Brahma and others also which are part and parcel of the same questions. Okay. So these are the 5 things that every devotee should do every day. That is, hear, associate with devotees, and in that association hear regularly about Krishna. And secondly is chanting the glories of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, and chanting choice prayers spoken by great devotees, just like every morning we're chanting so many prayers before the class. And then third is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what we're doing right now. And along with Srimad Bhagavatam, we're also hearing Bhagavad Gita, the 2 most quintessential texts of spiritual knowledge. And number 4 is residing in a holy place. Well, the temple is a holy place. Or you can go to India, to Vrindavan, or Mayapur, or other holy places where these same activities take place. And number 5 is worshiping the deity. Well, we do have deity worship, and we encourage anyone who wants to engage in deity worship to be trained and initiated properly and trained, and they can do it too. No one is being like in India, women are not allowed to engage in devotional service, but Prabhupada, our guru, has permitted that, and there are many women in this temple that worship the deity. Sometimes traditional Hindus will come and say, "What's that woman doing on the altar? Why is she there?" Well, it's Prabhupada's mercy, they say. Okay, so this mystery is love of Godhead. And only a genuine devotee without any mixed agenda can understand this. And therefore, only Uddhava was able to understand, or you'll see the other verses that we're going to read, only be able to understand what Krishna was saying, and Maitreya Muni was not able to understand because he still had mixed desires. Okay, we'll stop right there because I have to go today to Arlington. Are there any questions? No questions? Okay. Then we will have Guru Puja. Hare Krishna, glories to Prabhupada ki jai.
I have questions about what you
Yeah.
said.
Okay, we can talk about it now because I have to go.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bandho Mui Savadana Mate Chahara Prasade Bai E Baba Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Khoriya Kya Arana Khori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Chakshudan dilo jai janme janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan Hruday Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate Vede Gai Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokenath Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya Ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padachaya Ebe Jas Gushuk Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and master of devotees. O Lokanath Goswami, O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada.